We all have like a voice inside ourselves that want to say something about this world or want the world to take notice. I think film is a wonderful way to express that.
Filmmaking allows us the capacity to, in our own small way, influence the outcome that we strive for.
All right, stand by in 3, 2, 1.
I don't know if filmmakers ever die or retire. They just keep going.
We are not American. We will die as Hawaiians. We will never be Americans.
They're giving you their words, they're giving you their images. You have a lot of power when you're a video documentarian. You have to be humble.
Or do we want her to stand and then come? It's been a couple of years since I've been able to make a feature, and it's not because I haven't been trying.
It's a profession in which there's rejection. And you have to believe enough in your story and in yourself that you push through.
They are love letters to the planet, love letters to the culture.
We were part of the movement, not just documentarians, and we speak from that point of view.
The healing part as a woman is to be able to say, I want to do that. These journals are peacekeepers in my psyche. I don't know how else to say it, other than I get to sort of do these things and work out stuff. They're process pieces. That's what art is. It really is process. You may not be able to clean up reality, but you can certainly clean up things in drawings, you know? Because this is how you learn your history, just by doing the work. You don't have to understand it exactly all at the point you're doing things, but you want to be able to just go, wow, you know, let me go find out more.
Kai ko'o ka moana kailana nei Hawaiʻi nau e wehe a halulu ka honua a haumea.
The arts and creativity gave me my spirit. It gave me a lens with which to see the world. And I went, oh, that's so beautiful. What made that work was just connecting to nature. I was out in the universe all the time, just thinking, wow, I'm just in awe of everything beautiful. And whatever else creates clouds and creates the beach and the ocean is just so magnificent. So that's the connection to spirit too. It's just like, wow, whatever made that, I want to do that, and I want to be part of that. That's what being home taught me. And my beloved aunt, Auntie Irmgard.
I dreamed this song about a woman dressed in a mu'umu, red and white, and she was singing this song as someone was playing it on the piano. Then I took my pencil and started to write in Hawaiian, just wrote and wrote and wrote, didn't even know what I was writing.
It's my first film, and I have to share that because I loved Les Blank's films. But yeah, I didn't know how to make a film, so I said, okay, I'll talk to him. So he came to Hawaii in '87, and I was able to say, yo, hi, nice to meet you. I said, you want to make a film with me? And he goes, have you ever made a film before? I said, no. And he said, how old are you? I said, 29 or something like that. And he just said, well, okay, you have to raise all this money and do all this stuff. And yeah, so it was like like a rocket ship curve in terms of learning how to do that, writing grants. But everybody loved Auntie Irmgard, so that was the easy part. I wanted to tell her story and our story about growing up in Hawaii. My beloved cousins and I, we lived all on Maukapu. For so many of us, we were raised like that, you know, in our backyards and free to run around, and our parents never knew what we were doing until it was dinner time or something. And there's a lot of that memory. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful space. Lots of love here, you know. And it's kind of heavy, actually. It just has brought all this stuff back. We haven't been here, living here for about 40 years. It's kind of bittersweet in a way.
That on Friday, January 15th through Sunday, January 17th, 1993, the flag of the Kingdom of Hawaii, Republic, Territory, and State of Hawaii shall fly alone over all the state of Hawaiian buildings in the capital district, Honolulu, Hawaii.
What's incredible about Onipa'a is the event. But Onipa'a had to, I had to be a part of it because it was something I didn't understand fully. So I had to walk towards it, you know, and it was so profound because I realized that the more we get to know our history, the better we are to articulate our history. And that was so meaningful to me. It was like learning on the job, you know? There's been a theft of land. We almost lost our language. All of these things. And then to find all that stuff out, and we didn't learn that in high school. We didn't learn that in college. I had to come home and I had a whole bunch of activist cousins and found out all this stuff. It was like, really? A lot of angry Hawaiians for good reason. And so Onipa'a really changed my life. That event, that time, and the commitment that I made to community and to work in a big way. It sounds corny, doesn't it? But they are love letters. They are love letters to the planet, love letters to the culture, love letters to my family, even the murals. Because when you don't want to use words, you don't have to use words. You can use color, you can use music, prayer. It's all this amazing stuff that we get to share that's really about aloha and really about who we are. And, you know, film is so important for me because it tells our stories. And there's so few of us who are able to do that because it's a media that's very expensive. It takes a lot of courage. And, you know, part of the healing part as a woman is to be able to say, I want to do that. Can I? No, you've never made a film before. And I'm not saying art cures so much as it allows you to get a perspective on things. It allows you to understand yourself better, to love yourself in ways that you wouldn't normally. So I have to choose the light and the healing and all those good things. You know, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I so wouldn't be here. You know, there's been enough really rugged, rough stuff in my life to make me believe that there's got to be more out there. I was 26 and widowed. Really difficult situation with 2 boys. Oh, and I'm going to give up my art too. Not a good thing when you've been an artist your whole life. So that night, I wrote this stuff down on my bedside, and it said, "Pomai ka ie mea hana e, liko no iau valua iau." You know, and I don't know if I got all of that writing down correctly, because it was in my sleep and stuff. But when Auntie Pua shared what it meant, blessing on the doer of the work, sparkling and radiant, of benefit to all. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna not give my art supplies away. So that kind of was like a big deal. It's a hopeful thing for all of us in terms of believing that spirit is alive and well, and our ancestors are alive and well because they were talking to me. It doesn't have to say, you know, heal me in neon lights. It can say, no, we're not gonna let you give up your art. We're not gonna let you do that. And you don't have to be some, you know, great famous person. How about just for yourself? So yeah, that's kind of cool. And I love sharing this story right now because it makes a difference to me. You know, you just gotta give it up, offer it, and do the work that's been asked of you. So, and that's what I wanted to do because there's so much there's so much kamaha, there's so much pain. I don't need to go there. And there are a lot of our beloved children that need art. We all need art, we all need creativity, and that's what I want to end with. We got to do the art in schools, we got to do the art in prisons, we got to do the art in our families, because that's how we're going to heal. And that's an agent for change.
All right, stand by. Countdown coming to show start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fade up.
I don't know if filmmakers ever die or retire. They just keep going. And I'm still at it. My parents named me Christine Joyce because I was born before Christmas. So I'm hoping that I was a surprise as well as a joy in her life. My father was a chaplain at Mid-Pacific Institute, and my mother she worked at Aloha Airlines. I was the youngest child of 4, and I used to sit under the living room table and watch TV. Television is perfect for someone like me. You know, I was a lover of history. My first job in television was at Hawaii Public Television. I was hired there as a student technician. So at first it was quite intimidating, but once you understood what everybody did, it became much more fun. I knew at that point in time that's what I wanted to do for a living. There were hardly any women directors. It's been my family for the last 40-something odd years, and I really cherish the whole concept of public television because I think it really gives voice to a lot of subject matter and people that normally are not featured on commercial television or entities.
You always knew she was there. She had a very, very strong presence.
My career has been focused on Hawaiian history, meaning the history of not only the native Hawaiian people, but also the immigrants and those that came to Hawaii to find a better life. Canefield songs told the story of the Japanese immigrants that came to Hawaii to work on the cane fields. The work was hard, the pay was terrible. What are you gonna do? You sing. I would encourage new filmmakers to remember their history and don't assume that people know about it, and to talk to their families to find about the stories. And you'll be really surprised, because a lot of times it's either too painful for them or they just don't think it's important. It's important to continue the documentation because it'll get lost.
Kapa was one of these things that, not because it was any militant kind of thing, but it was one of the things, one of our arts that had been completely lost. With the negative and the positive space and telling them what you don't put in has just as much weight as what you do. The empty space is just as important as the black space.
I worked on and I'm still working on a local television show called Rice and Roses. Every week we would scramble, go out into the community, tape and edit together stories about working people in Hawaii. And that's always been my love, getting the perspective of ordinary people. What I found out is their stories were incredible.
It's a story about Hawaii and a plantation lifestyle which no longer exists. And it's a tribute to a man, Coach Soichi Sakamoto, and those remarkable...
This was in the 1930s, and he took them to the mainland. They won national championships, and they were ready to go to the Olympics. But unfortunately, the Olympics were canceled because of World War II. I realized how little I know. and that nobody is necessarily the bad guy or the good guy. When I'm on set, I'm looking at the monitor because obviously that's what the camera's going to see.
Whenever I would turn around, I would see Joy as the director, I would see her back, because what she was doing was staring into the monitor to make sure that the shot was staying consistent in the way that we wanted it and would be useful for her when she was editing.
She deals with people in the most wonderful ways.
She's probably the best live director in the States. She's probably done more live television directing than almost anyone, unless there's somebody at one of the news stations that does the nightly news.
And when she sits in the director chair, she's aware of everything going on.
Insights on PBS Hawaiʻi is a live television show that's broadcast weekly. So what's fascinating about doing live television is that you have to time everything. It's like a symphony orchestra. You have many people working behind the scenes, and so you have to have a language that everybody understands. Instead of waving a baton, it's all done over a headset. As an editor of almost all of my projects, I felt that it was just as important as being out in the field. It's fun, but it's arduous at the same time, and it really does take a lot of time. I love to listen to music. I settled on the drums because I like rhythm. And so being an editor, it kind of helps. Don't give up. It takes a while to get the experience. And you never end getting experience, but that's part of the fun of it all. Do you regret anything, Joy? No, I don't think so. I don't think you should live your life regretting. And I've been really blessed to have a career that was supported by my family and a career that was fulfilling and is still fulfilling. And my only hope was that I benefited humankind in some way. And I hope that's the truth.
Of a world with peace, a world without war. This is the story of the awakening of the human spirit.
There's some part of Kapa that is in my life.
Find a career that you know you will enjoy, and when you get up in the morning every day, pop out of bed and just do what you're supposed to be doing and enjoying life. If you feel the passion to do this, keep going. You're going to have some rough roads ahead, but let me tell you, it's going to be worth it.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, stand by, please. We have 30 seconds left to the program. 30 seconds. In 3, 2, 15 seconds. Wrap it up.
You have a lot of power when you're a video documentarian. You have to be humble and have a lot of respect for the people. They're giving you their words, they're giving you their images. That's a very responsible position to have, to portray them as they want to be portrayed. From the time I was young, whenever I saw something of beauty, I always wanted to say, oh, look over here, look over here. I couldn't enjoy it unless somebody else was looking at it with me. And that kind of carried on to when I came to Hawaii and I was saying, wow, look at this beautiful place, this beautiful culture, these beautiful people. And I wanted to do programming about it when I got into doing video. But I was a newcomer to Hawaii. I didn't really feel comfortable making programming about Hawaiians. But when I met Puhi Pau, He was part of a land rights struggle down at Sand Island, and friends and colleagues, Windward Video, they were doing a documentary about it, and they brought Puipao in to do the narration, and that's when I first met him. He saw that I could do video, and that's what he wanted to do after going through this eviction struggle and seeing a documentary come out of it. He saw the power that video could have, and he wanted to do more of it, and I wanted to do more of it, so we made a good team. Nā maka o ka aina means the eyes of the land, and Puipao would always joke that I was the eyes because I was the camera person, and he was the ears because he was a sound recordist. Because I considered Puipao really the main person on our team, because it was his host culture and his history and his people's stories that were being told, because I had so much power being the videographer and also being an editor, we had to really work very closely. And there were times when Puipao would say, no, we don't want to show this. Our technique was just, you go out and you want to make a lei. And so you go out to where the flowers are blooming, or a specific bush or a specific tree, and you pick all your flowers, and that's like recording all your raw footage. You bring your flowers home and you sort them according to size and color, and that's like doing pre-editing, and then you string your lei, you know, and you put all the segments together. We knew that if it was a water rights struggle, we'd have to go out and talk to the principals involved, the people involved in the struggle. But we didn't know what they were going to say. It was a matter of going and collecting the raw material and then piecing it together in editing like a puzzle. When we were interviewing kupuna or people, we would have that camera ready to go as soon as we got out of the car, because they would start talking immediately, and we didn't want to miss a single drop of what they had to say. Especially if they were speaking in Olelo, Hawaii, we wanted to capture their ways of greeting us, or their ways of just talking informally. So much of that is so important, especially for people trying to learn Hawaiian today, just to learn the informal things that people would say, not just what they said when they sat down for an interview. When you spend a lot of time on location with certain events and issues, you're just there so long that eventually they start ignoring you, forgetting you're there. And a lot of times the immediacy of what's going on is just occupying them so much that they're just not aware of the camera. And a lot of it is they want to be documented. They wanted the world to know. We were part of the movement, not just documentarians, and we speak from that point of view because it's not given enough attention. And for many, many decades, it was just disappeared from history. So we felt that was our mission, to undisappear the Hawaiian people. If there was an eviction somewhere, we would be notified the night before. We'd get up 3 or 4 a.m., grab our equipment, make sure all our batteries were charged, and get on scene.
On the day before Christmas, 1994, something happened that had never happened before in Hawaii. Water was restored to a stream.
I could stay here all day and just sit and listen to the water.
There were a few wins over the course of years. People won water rights, they would win land rights. For how many years now have they stopped further development of the summit of Mauna Kea? Part of me actually wanted to make documentaries about how communities win, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. These people are not just going out and gathering, practicing their cultural traditions. They're in court. They're going to hearing after hearing after hearing. They're going testifying before commissions. We covered it because good things are said in hearings, and so you end up shooting like 8 hours of hearings and you get maybe like 30 seconds of just beautiful footage out of it that you use.
You are putting the knife into our heart.
The harm is immeasurable.
But that's what Hawaiians and people who are, and not just Hawaiians, but everybody in Hawaii who's trying to protect Hawaii, that's what they have to do. They have to engage in various arenas, not only taking care of the land itself, but going into the boardrooms and into the courtrooms and into the hearing rooms and making their voices heard and pushing the issue.
No tell me go, oh no, 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 no.
Just to be around those dramatic situations where people are making a stand. Lopaka Brown, veteran, dressed in his Marine outfit, being forcibly carried from his home in Waimea Valley because the land is being, he's being evicted and the land is being possessed by somebody else. very dramatic. And in a way, when you're shooting through a camera, you're a little bit removed from it because you're seeing it through a viewfinder, which in most of my days was black and white. You're kind of looking at it as how people would see it later on the TV. And you're also concerned with making sure you're getting the shot. So even though you could be a little bit removed from capturing the scene, at the end of it, when it was all over, you know, you would just be drained, and you could just imagine the people who had gone through it. To make programming that will contain both the beauty of the people and the land and the culture, and then the violation of that, and try to make it so that people watching will just say, this is something that's got to be preserved. A wrong was done here, we've got to make that wrong right. But as far as the things that brought me a lot of satisfaction, the outstanding one was just being on Mauna Kea for 6 years. The silence and being there at all times of the year when it snowed, and in the middle of the night trying to capture the reflections of the meteors and the surface of Lake Waiau, and in all the different seasons of the year, from both on top of the mountain and then from sea level. And then we would leave our house here in Ka'u at 3 a.m. because at sunrise, when there's snow up there, it starts glowing a pinkish red. My whole responsibility now, from now until when I die, is to make sure that all these tapes, all the footage is preserved, and get all the logs and the transcripts all digitized. And when I look at the shelves, I see faces and I hear voices, and I go, oh my God, we gotta protect them, and we gotta let them be heard, because that's why they shared their voices with us in the first place, is they wanted to share with the world.
Everything that I synthesize in and out is based on how I see the world, with Hawaii as my piko, as the core, as the root of who I am and what I do. Hawaii is my mainland, and there is no other. I wrote Ku Ha'aheo e Ku'u Hawaii in 2007. There are 4 verses. And the first verse is talking about the predicament or the problem. Second verse speaks to the pleas, and it calls all of our kanaka to stand together and to unite as one. The third verse is the plan. What are we going to do? We have to be brave, we have to be diligent, we have to apply ourselves. And in the fourth verse is that we shall be successful, we shall be triumphant, we shall rise above the challenges. It became a vehicle of empowerment for people to sing, to make our hearts and our minds and our spirits stronger. When I was in school, I do not ever recall a time where we were taught to be so forward-thinking with anything that had to do with our culture or history. My people and my islands are dominated by the United States of America, and therefore we are subject to their political system, we are subject to their political machine, their mentality, their outlook. And my people are highly colonized by American values and ideals. We as Kanaka have the responsibility to see the value of what can we learn from our history and our stories, and how can we utilize it to be a beacon of light, to illuminate the pathway that we have to travel down. When I got to Kamehameha in the 7th grade, I was a very shy student. It took me a while to make friends and to find my place. I knew that I was different. I remember secretly having a crush on a boy that was my classmate, and I could not say anything because I remember telling my mom that other kids teased me. Fag, homo, queer. They made fun of my name, Colin, Koikong, Wong. I set out to take anything and everything that I could. I auditioned for the Concert Glee Club, and then I joined the performing arts to dance and chant and to sing, which was one of the main representations of being Hawaiian on campus at that time. I transitioned in front of my father when I went from being my family's son to being my family's daughter. My mother admittedly was not as receptive. In fact, she kind of freaked out. It took Mom a longer amount of time to finally accept me as her daughter. I make my films through the lens that is my Kanaka worldview.
Tonga is the last remaining kingdom in the Pacific, and we're very proud of who we are.
How will it elevate the status and the place of my people as the rightful people of these islands?
See, when you first look at me, oh yeah, are you a boy? I'm like, no. And then they give me like a look.
Ready, push. We should have a prominent place in our own home. I remember being approached to do kumuhina. My first reaction to the two gentlemen whom I now refer to as my colleagues and my filmmaking team, Dr. Dean Hamer and Joe Wilson. I didn't know why they wanted to follow me around and make me the subject of the film. My personal life was certainly challenged by it because it made my relationship, it made my marriage very public. 20 years ago, I was working at Keolamamo, Native Hawaiian healthcare system. We taught out in the community about how to avoid acquiring HIV and other STDs. And we also taught about mahu and understanding this element of Hawaiian life. And I remember using that reference to Kapai Mahu as an example of how Hawaiians saw the world and saw people like us. We were not an abomination. We are simply a part of the society that we live in. So telling the story Kapai Mahu is meant to uplift Kanaka perspective on these legendary figures.
Ulu mai kala, wai hoa kula la ko I tala ko mana la paau, me takanu puke tai, I mau ti I ho'o mana, maalalo te pohatu tai tai.
Mahu is someone who has the element of duality to their mind, their heart, their spirit, as well as sometimes their physical nature.
Hala no ho tai mahina, o ta haalele no ia ko pai mahu ma, a oheloa e ho I ho mai.
To us as Polynesians, we understand Mahu to be quite profound people and people whom have great talents as well as great responsibility. It's not a shallow concept. We are simply a part of the fabric of society and our families. We're no more, we're no less. We're equal. We as Hawaiians, we're special, but we're not that special. We're part of a larger family. Our genealogy, our bloodline, and linguistically, we are all one family. Filmmaking allows us the capacity to, in our own small way, influence the outcome that we strive for. There has to be something that we gain from whatever it is that we show. No matter how middle of the line that we might take it, there has to be something that we walk away from when we do our work as people in filmmaking. So for the Wāhine, for the women out there, and even for my brothers, the opposite in the Mahu world, the female to male, find your place in the world. Get out there, tell your story, bring your perspective, because that's truly how we learn, that's how we grow.
all have like a voice inside ourselves that want to say something about this world or want the world to take notice. I think film is a wonderful way to express that. And it's a way you can express that can touch a lot of people and change how they see the world too.
What you endure is who you are. And if you just accept and do nothing, then life goes on. But if you see it as a way for change, life doesn't have to be this unfair. It can be better. Maybe not for me, I can't change the past, but I can certainly help somebody else in the future so they don't have to go through what I did.
I knew of Patsy Mink's name. You know, having grown up here, of course she was a name I knew. She was a politician, that's what I knew of her. I didn't know anything else. And it wasn't until she passed away in 2002, sadly, that I really became aware of her story. And I realized that she was just this trailblazer.
I was the first woman of color, which is what I prefer people to remember. The first woman of color in the entire United States House of Representatives.
There's something about her story that really speaks to me as an Asian American woman. And at the time, I think I was also sort of figuring out my own political identity, and her brand of politics really spoke to me as well. She was an unapologetic liberal at a time when being a liberal was a word nobody wanted to use. Being that bold as a woman, as a Japanese American woman, it's just amazing. I was really impressed and inspired by her story.
My goal is to represent Hawaii and the United States at the World Championships and win.
With Winning Girl, it's saying that girls can play whatever sports they want. Here's this young girl who has this ambition to be an Olympic champion in 2 sports. That's a pretty big ambition.
They just think that girls are easy, girls are nothing, but I just read their faces and I think in my head, he's going down.
As soon as I started filming with her, she stopped competing against boys. Because the thing is, when she was young, she had to compete against boys because there weren't as many girls in the sport. But I guess once you get to like the middle school age, there are wrestling teams for girls, and there's just a lot more opportunities to compete against girls, which is great. So she found people of her caliber she could compete against. So no longer was that a story about gender equality, which is what I thought it was going to be when I started. It ended up just being more of a sports story, a story about an athlete on the rise. Usually when we see sports stories, they're already champions and we're looking at them as champions. You don't really see the story of the athlete going through the ranks and learning and failing and rising. And I think that's what Winning Girl ended up becoming.
And I'm just gonna train 10 times as harder for the next year. Congratulations. Thank you, thank you.
It's a profession in which there's rejection constantly. And you have to be ready for that. But I think at the end of the day, you have to believe enough in your story and in yourself that you push through. When I became a mom, my filmmaking had to change. It had to, because I had two kids. I used to, like with Patsy Mink, I was there for every single shoot. I was there, I was asking the questions, I had to do everything. And then by the time Winning Girl came around, I became a mom. There was a shoot I did, and my daughter was still nursing at the time, and I had my husband bring her to the shoot, and I honestly was asking the questions with her nursing, with a nursing apron over. And I remember the sound recorder saying, "Kim, this is the first time I've ever seen a director nursing her child while doing an interview." And I was like, I took that as a badge of honor. When you're a working mom, you have to make compromises, but sometimes you just have to combine your work and your family too and be creative. So I'm currently in post-production on a film that's tentatively called Eye of the Water, The Unwritten Life of C.F.E. Gell.
The moon will touch the part of you against the wall, fearing the flap of birds, the sound of waves came like a little hurricane, or perhaps a tornado. It was that did this to her, planted the lizard.
She was the first Samoan writer to really shine a light on the lives of adolescent girls who up until then really had no voice in the literature and imagery of the Pacific. Everybody who wrote about the Pacific were, first of all, like European white males. And then we have Margaret Mead come in, and she's telling a different story, but again, she's an outsider telling the stories of young Samoan girls. And Sia was the first to be a Samoan woman to tell that story. So I think she's pretty amazing, pretty much a pioneer in that way. This project has challenged me, I think, in ways the other ones haven't, because of the length of it. Patsy Mink, it was 4 years. Winning Girl was 5 years. This one's 5 years, and it's gonna be going on longer than that. And I don't even know how I would describe my relationship with Sia right now. Definitely not just filmmaker and protagonist. We're more than that. There are times on this project where I knew things that no one else knew about her. I still feel like my best work is ahead of me. I'm proud of my films, but I don't feel like my films have said everything I want to say yet. I love my films to be films that shine a light on women and girls and women and girls of color. But I sometimes have thought that has hurt my career because my films are seen as niche. Patsy Mink with Winning Girl, they did really well in the Asian American Film Festival circuit, Women's Film Festival circuit, but they didn't really get to kind of the more mainstream festivals. They're seen as niche, we don't value, or at least we didn't. I think we're starting to change, and it's changing now, and those stories are becoming more valued. But I still want to tell those stories. I'm not gonna not tell those stories because the industry is not interested. I'm just gonna keep telling them and tell them well enough and bold enough and loud enough that they have to listen.
This is your audience now. So if you're down here and you see a camera, that's your time to make eyes with them as if they're your audience. We are in the historic Hilo Palace Theater, which was opened in 1925. There's something about being able to create here. This afternoon, I am directing Live from the Empty Palace, which is a series that I helped kick off when quarantine happened and the theater went dark. Phillips and myself and our co-producer, Drew Daniels, came up with the idea to showcase all of this amazing performance art talent that, was hungry to work. Or do we want her to stand and then kind of sink out of frame? I've produced a lot of shows out here, but now I'm producing films that are set here, so clearly I'm pretty inspired by the location.
Water bottle, that's 2 points. Tonight's just not your night. Fanny pack. Oh, dang. That's 8. Is there anything good inside? What?
Cashback is a 7-minute narrative short film. The idea of it actually came because of the availability of one of the actresses in it that I had been really hoping to work with. Her name is Grace Scanlon. She became pregnant with her first child, and that made me really excited about the opportunity to write a character of a young pregnant woman and have a young pregnant woman actually play her. COVID kind of got in the way of our plan there because we went into lockdown about 3 weeks before we were supposed to shoot. So we ended up having to push the production back. Grace had her daughter. We got a prosthetic belly. It's also kind of a world-building proof of concept for a feature that we've been trying to get off the ground. It uses the same characters like 5 years earlier. We were just sort of hoping that we would be able to kind of use it to show people the world that the feature would take place in. It's been a couple of years since I've been able to make a feature, and it's not because I haven't been trying. In the film scene in Hawaii, we have very few female filmmakers making narrative feature-length work. I could only count 3 women in the last 30 years that had been able to make a narrative feature. The first one was Kaiohata in '94 with Picture Bride. The second one was me in 2019 with Stoke. And the third just came out this year, 2021, which was Jude Wang's Finding Ohana. And that's it. It's definitely access to financing, I'm learning. because we've had a lot of men make narrative films in that time span. I mean, we had several narrative features come out in 2020 alone, directed by men, shot in the state. And it's not because we don't have a lot of women out here trying to make films.
No, bro.
Hey! Hey, wait up! Can you take me to the lava? This is you, yes? Big boys?
Yeah, it's us. I'm Dustin. This is Paul.
Jane. Do you have an open spot today or maybe tomorrow? I've been calling places all morning and everybody is booked for days.
Stoke was shot on Hawaii Island in 2017. It was produced with myself and my partner Phillips Payson, who co-directed. We centered the story around the lava flow that had been flowing, I think, for like 30 years in Kalapana into the ocean, which is right where we live. Stoke follows an entitled tourist who comes out to Hawaii Island to grieve, basically, and she hires 2 wannabe tour guides to take her to an active volcano.
We got a couple of types of lava. We got the hoi, slow-moving kind, oozing out like pancake batter. And now there is which moves faster, huh? As you can imagine, the lava impacts just about everything here on island. Tourism, real estate, you name it. There ain't nothing out here that you don't touch.
All 3 of the main characters from Stoke were born out of different perspectives that came from a documentary I was working on in 2014 called Aloha from Lavaland, where we were interviewing members of my community about their experience, living on an active volcano and how that impacts their life. Kalapana, which is in the Puna district on the Big Island, has, I think, some of the most volcanic activity in the country. The same themes kept coming up over and over about impermanence. A lot of people came here who hadn't been born and raised here, came here to deal with some kind of grief. A seed sprouts in your brain, right? And then you just obsessively return to it, and these characters are born.
Did you really hire them to take you to the lava?
Yeah, I really did.
It's ridiculous, no offense, how people show up to see it.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. So many people, thousands and thousands, flying from God knows where to see a damn volcano before they can understand that the land is the law.
I went back and forth a lot about how to approach the cultural side of the volcano with the Hawaiian characters, because I am not Hawaiian, and I wasn't really sure how to give myself permission to go there.
Check it! Yeah,
I worked a lot with the actors, the Hawaiian actors who were playing those characters, and I also sent the script around to several cultural practitioners that I know to kind of explore what I was getting right, what I was getting wrong.
What's your deal?
You know my deal, cuz. Selling lava to tourists feels
no pono, I got you already.
Yeah, bro. It's like selling trips to go meet Jesus or something.
I can't really access what it's like to be raised Hawaiian and to have this relationship with the land. I'll never fully understand that. But I could talk about what it might feel like to have something that is so sacred to you commoditized for tourism. The centerpiece of our film, even though it's the end, it's like the core of the film, takes place in front of an active volcano, which is a challenge in its own right. And a lot of people who watch the film, they're like, that was a green screen, right? And I was like, nope, they're on a boat. We can only fit 6 people on the boat, so I actually didn't get to go. I didn't direct that final scene because we were like, we needed our crew, we needed our 3 actors, and that was pretty much it. Phillips directed that final scene. I like the lead. Phillips was my best friend in high school, and then after college, friendship started kind of leaning towards romance, and he wanted to make a feature film. I wrote a script for him very quickly, and we shot like the 2nd draft of it out here in Hawaii. From there, we did a couple more films together with him directing and me writing, producing, and then I co-directed Stoke with him. And then after Stoke, we kind of made this decision to creatively uncouple, we call it. We realized that we wanted to make different films. I still will produce for him, but in terms of like co-creating, we just realized we would both be making stronger work separately. Being able to do my own work kind of has given me a lot of independence, obviously, but I'm more confident now. There are a lot of people who make one film and they find out how hard it is and they don't ever get to make a second one. So my advice is always just to keep going, keep finding new people to collaborate with, because this is a collaborative medium and you can't do it on your own, and just keep going, don't stop. Woo.
Hawaii Women in Filmmaking is a non-profit organization that advocates for women and girls telling their stories through film. Put simply, that's what all we are about. Our approach in changing what is an industry that is still pretty male-dominated, what we are really trying to do is creating a space somehow outside the industry, a space where women and girls can thrive, learn, and make films, but also trying to disrupt how the system works by making sure that we are as present as we can be in all the spaces where decisions actually happen. With Reel Wāhine of Hawai, we have women in front and behind the camera because we really wanted to tell stories that otherwise would have been left untold and forgotten. And we had women behind the camera because it was intentionally designed to displace the male gaze that has been dominating the industry since ever. So we're really creating a space for women and girls to thrive while they're telling their stories, but also making sure that the industry take notice and understand that that's where actually they should go.
Creating Reel Wāhine each season is a curating process. And so we try to, of course, find stories that are complementary. You know, we look at filmmakers of different ages at different points in their career. We want to not just profile directors. We also want to see filmmakers in their crafts, right? Like camera people and editors and animators. First and foremost, the filmmakers that we choose to profile are filmmakers whose work that we love. There are filmmakers in our community who make terrific films, who we've admired for years and years. For us directors, it's an amazing opportunity to get to speak to your heroes and to get to find out what their creative process is, what their inspirations are, what makes them choose to tell the stories that they want to tell.
For this series, I had the opportunity and privilege to interview Joan. And you know, she had such an instrumental role in the filmmaking community, and here I am talking with her and learning, you know, the challenges, but also the opportunity, and what a difference she made. So, and I feel like, you know, I want to be like her. I want to be like her, you know. She was very committed to make sure that Hawaiians were not disappearing from media. And for me, I might have a different lens. I want to make sure that women's stories do not disappear in the media, that we pay attention, that we honor, and we celebrate them.
As a young woman, when I entered the industry, there was nobody else who looked like me in the business, in the building, you know? And so, it was through luck that there were a few amazing men who mentored me along the way and helped me along. I think from where I sit, I am seeing a community of filmmakers that are growing and becoming more inclusive. And I think that in some small part, it's because of Reel Wāhine of Hawai that we have created these sort of ripples in the pond that are reverberating out throughout our film community by giving women more opportunities to work in the film industry, young women opportunities to get their foot in the door by doing real filmmaking work and getting mentored by older filmmakers, and creating pathways professionally by each of us getting an opportunity to collaborate and work together and get to know each other. I hope that young women who have aspirations of being filmmakers see other women doing this incredibly hard, incredibly challenging, but incredibly rewarding work of filmmaking, and see that on the screen and go, I want to do that. And know that they can, because they see on television other people that look like them doing that work.